Kelly Davis, your host of the Untold Miracles podcast, and today I am so honored to be sitting down with a legendary on-air radio personality, philanthropist, podcast host, two-time New York Times bestselling author, stand-up comedian, Dancing with the Stars champion, CMA award winner, host of the Country Top 30 Countdown, mentor on American Idol, member of the National Radio Hall of Fame, host of the nationally syndicated and #1 country morning show, reaching millions of listeners each week. And he's the host of the new TV show, Opry, debuting on February 26th. Mr. Bobby Bones, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Wow. You know, I don't feel uncomfortable often, but in that situation, there becomes a level of when you cringe and you just go, I'm just going to wait for it to be over.
Well, Bobby, you should be grateful that I didn't include everything.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited to be. I always love being here. You know, this is it's a very special place, and you know, I got my buddy Noah over there. That's on the mic. Noah, you feeling good over there? You can say yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. He's ready. If we ever need help, Noah's going to jump in with us.
Well, I can't wait. Noah, we're going to have you be a part of this conversation. You cool with that?
Just raise your hand if you have something to say, Noah, okay? All right.
Bobby, before we start, I just want to thank you so much for being here, because we're here with some amazing patients at Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt in Seacrest Studios. And on this podcast, we talk about miracles, and you live your life in service of others. And you've done so much to help so many people. So I just want to thank you for your incredible heart and who you are as a human being. It means the world to these kids and to the millions of kids that you impact. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I think for me, I try to give back because I was given to so much. You know, I definitely don't feel like I'm in anything any more special than just a guy who gets to come on and have built a platform to try to give back. Because, you know, when I was a kid, I was in the hospital a lot or needed help getting Christmas presents or food. And if it wasn't for people actually coming in and allowing those things to happen, I wouldn't be here. So I kind of feel like the product of a very giving environment, either church or people in my community. And so for me, I feel like it's my job, my duty. Like I was kind of put here to hopefully inspire others to do the same. So for you to say that, that's actually the stuff that I like. Right. I like when you know, hopefully people hear my story and go, oh, wow, we could probably do more. And I kind of feel like that's where my place fits in all of this world of whatever weird job land I have.
Well, I want to talk about your story. And I want to go back to when you first decided that radio was kind of a cool thing and you began to fall in love with radio.
I've always known I wanted to be on the radio. And when I was 5 or 6 years old, I remember they do the thing in kindergarten. You ever had that thing where they ask you what you want to be when you grow up? Do you know they do that with you? What do you tell them you want to be?
A YouTuber.
Okay, but you're a YouTuber now was my radio then. Is what's funny. So when I was, how old are you right now?
9.
You're 9? So when I was 5 or 6, I wanted to be on the radio and I wanted to be a stand-up comic. I wanted to be on TV. And I thought, man, that's what I want to do. There was nobody around me really doing it though. So as I was growing up, I tried to find inspiration to tell me that I could, but I just found it through watching TV and watching people like David Letterman or listening to the radio. And, you know, now I see him and he wants to be a YouTuber. And it's like, if that's what you really want to do, like, I don't want you to ever not think that it can be attained or accomplished. And so for me, the radio was hearing people. And when I was 13, I begged to be on the air and they let me come up on Christmas Eve. And I've just always had the bug. And so here I am now, many years later, still loving it more than I did, you know, a year prior.
So tell us what your big break into radio was.
Man, I don't know if I've ever had like a real big break where it was like, wow, this is kind of what made you. For me, it's been a very, very slow climb, like a really slow, gradual climb where I was doing, you know, a nighttime show where I would talk over like 6-second intros of songs. It'd always be where I would kind of get the second or third look. I was never the person that they wanted to hire for the show. I've never got a job being the first choice, ever. Even the job that I have now, they wanted to hire 2 or 3 people before me and they couldn't get them. Right. And I've always been the guy that I was always ready and willing and working to get my shot. And so I think my big break has always been me always standing by going, if it doesn't work out, like I'm here and I'm going to work hard. Right. And just over time, that's happened a few times to, you know, even with some of the jobs that I have now, I think my big break has been whatever I have inside of me that constantly propels me to think, man, you just have to outwork everyone.
So what advice would you give Noah and Charlie and Micah about living their dreams and pursuing their dreams?
I think that whatever you think you want to do, you can do. You know, I hope that I'm an example of that. I come from a town of 700 people in Mountain Pine, Arkansas, where we didn't have the greatest education. We didn't have all the resources, but it's about finding the people to look up to be inspired by. And it's really about putting in the work and showing up on time. It's the really small things that make the biggest differences. And that's what I've learned even now at my age. And I'm 39 at this point, but the one thing that's remained consistent is hardworking people that show up on time and respect and are kind to others. They're the ones that are consistently making it. And so that's what I would tell them. Like, it doesn't matter if people around you are doing it or not, but your dream can be as big as you want it to be, but your dream's not going to happen just because you fall asleep. Your dream's going to happen because you do the work all the time.
Right. Well, it will be 7 years next week on February 25th that you moved from top 40 to country. Did you have any fears when you made that decision?
Sure, I have fears about everything I do. When
How do you move through those fears?
I moved through them by just going, I should be scared of something because nothing's worth doing on a big level if there's not a little bit of trepidation, being a little bit scared. Like, I like to constantly stretch myself, and I fail a lot doing that, but my biggest gains are through the biggest risks that I take. And so, yeah, I was scared. I had built a syndication company in Austin with my own money, and I didn't have a lot of money, and I was investing it all back in. And I had built like 25 affiliates, and I'd had stations all over the country, and they were like, hey, where do you want to go? When it was country, I had to give all that up and start over. But I wasn't scared because, again, to me, nothing's worth getting if there's not a big chance. And they took a big chance on me, and I took a big chance and I grew up on country music and loved country music, and I knew it's where I wanted to be. So a little bit of me too was like, if it doesn't work out, that's okay, because this was a decision that I made. And I always like to fail when I made the decision to fail. If I'm put in a situation and it doesn't work out for me, or I wasn't being honest with myself, that's the biggest and that's the hardest part about failing. So just generally, I try to be my most true self. And if it doesn't work out, at least I knew I was trying from my foundation more so than someone else's. And that's what it was like moving to Nashville for me.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, between your podcast and your nationally syndicated show, you reach, this is what I read online, 9.2 million per week. What do you love most about being on the radio, and what do you want people to know and feel from listening to you?
Well, and being on the radio nowadays is obviously coming through the airwaves and through people's literal radios, but it's also coming through phones. It's also people streaming the show live. It's also people listening to podcasts. So to me, radio is any place that you can consume media. I don't know if that number's true, low, high. I don't know. But we do talk to a lot of people. And for me, what I want to be known for is, the person that taught others that their opportunities don't come from just the things they can touch around them. Like, you're bigger than what you can see. Because again, nobody ever told me that I could do the things that I'm doing now. Nobody told me I couldn't. It just wasn't accessible in any way. So no one was really trying things where I come from. You went to work at the sawmill when you graduated high school. And for me, I want kids to know that whatever your dream is, there is a way to it. It may be hard. It should be hard if it's worth having. And it will be, but it doesn't matter what it is you want to do. There is a way to accomplish that. And hopefully it's not just me saying that, it's me also proving it by what I'm still doing today and all the steps that I had to take to get here.
So you just finished, I think, your 228th episode on the Bobbycast.
Yeah, it's a interview podcast from my house. Yeah.
So what has been your most memorable interview on the Bobbycast so far?
Well, I started doing that podcast because I just have a lot of friends who are songwriters and artists, and selfishly, I'm so intrigued by how people create. I know how I create, and it's different than anyone else, but I wanted to talk to them and find out what made them tick or what inspired them. And so I would bring them on and ask them all these questions that I really wouldn't ask them in a social setting. And so to me, it was an hour long. It was really intense, and it's just built this massive following that I couldn't even believe on a podcast.
13 million downloads.
Which is, I'm not even sure if that number's true. I don't know anything about numbers. I just know that I enjoy doing it. And, some of my favorite guests are people that aren't even that famous. Mike Duncan, who is the president of a record label in town, is fascinating to me because he has to find music. He has to find that special thing. He has a special thing, a part of him that you don't know about. Because, he found Luke Bryan. And so it's people who are so good at what they do, they can actually spot talent and cultivate it. And we get to watch them to grow and kind of blow up. I just had Colby Calais on. And it's interesting to hear about her because she started accidentally. One of her friends put her music up online, and then she started having record deals say, hey, we like that song Bubbly. And she's like, 6 months later, I'm on tour with the Goo Goo Dolls. And I didn't even really want to pursue this. And so it's to hear a lot of these origin stories that we don't get to hear anymore because these artists are so advanced in their careers. That's what I like about doing the Bobbycast.
Well, you are also a mentor on American Idol, and I watched you last Sunday talking to these kids about being their authentic, true self. And I want to know, at what age in life were you able to fully be you and love who you are?
I think I'm still trying. I think we all are still trying to figure out how to fully be us. I try as best I can. I can't say there aren't times when I'm like, man, wish I would have just handled that differently. Mm-hmm. You know, I think a lot of me comes from, at least now, recognizing my mistakes quicker because I make them a lot. We all do. But I think my real growth has been, I messed up. I'm okay with saying I messed up, realizing it, apologizing if I need to, and growing from it. I'm constantly just trying to figure out who I don't know that I ever will figure out really who, or if we ever do. I think that may be something we chase. I started to, where it became real to me was when I would share a story that I felt embarrassed of because of the struggle that I had growing up, where I felt like I was so alone. But I started to share those struggles, but it was only then when the things I wanted to keep the most hidden were under the light, where people would come out and go, thank you for saying that. I feel the same way. And I started to feel not alone. Right. I felt the most loved when I shared the things that I wanted to hide the most. And so for me, it was, even when I wrote my first book, which is called Bare Bones, that's probably when I went, there's real power in being true to yourself, because everybody else is looking for inspiration to remain true to themselves. And people coming going, wow, I really appreciate that, was a big moment for me to go, man, I'm not alone. I'm not near as alone as I thought I was.
Well, I just listened to you the other day talking about your new relationship, and you were talking about therapy. I'm 46, I've never been married. And so I appreciate you talking about, look, I have a therapist. We're talking about relationships. I want to be better at relationships. And just being vulnerable, you have no idea how many people that helps. So just thank you so much for being you. And you exude positivity and happiness, and you do exude a self-love for yourself. So thank you for teaching us how to do that. I really appreciate that. I
appreciate you saying that. I think for me, it all kind of roots back to figuring out where my gratitude is. For a long time, I was a little resentful at the fact that there were a lot of factors in my life early into my teens and 20s that I was like, why did that have to happen to me? But now here I am, and I'm appreciative that it happened because it's given me an empathy to talk with others. Even the kids that are surrounding me in the hospital, like, I know what it's like to be in the hospital for weeks. Right. Like, it stinks. But it's the people that love you, that are with you. It's the people that come in. I was in the hospital. I had fallen off a house and had a bunch of organs that were ruptured. And it was people coming by to blow up balloons and sing songs. And, you know, I'm on the board of Musicians on Call because of that. I just don't think I would have been had I not experienced it. So I'm very grateful for a lot of those things. But it's finding the gratitude, because I couldn't find it for a long time. Right. But it was identifying, what am I thankful for? We all have something that we should be thankful for and be sharing it. Right. So I think that's where that comes from, was me finally able to go, wow, I have had it great in a lot of ways. I am very appreciative of what I went through, because now I don't have to feel sorry for people. I can actually just feel with people more so than go like, oh, I feel bad for you. It's like, no, I feel you, and there's a difference. Right.
Thank you for sharing that. Forbes has called you one of the most powerful men in country. I'm sorry. I have to say it. And what is really cool about this, Bobby, is that you care about people, and you have helped women with the gender imbalance in country music. Cam, Kelsey Ballerini, Mary Morris, Chris Jansen, his song about Buy a Boat. You helped get that to number 1. I want to know what your personal mission is with your platform in country music.
You know, I think it's just a fairness in general with, you know, right now there is a gender imbalance. And what I did on my last contract, whenever my negotiation started back with my company now, which is iHeartRadio, who I love, and they've given me such a platform and allowed me to build and grow my platform, is that when I negotiated my last deal, you ask for things like, what are the resources you need to make your show better? What would you like your pay to be? All of this. But what I asked was a national block that I can control the content or music for whatever I want, which was a bit unheard of for me to. And so when they said, okay, we'll give you an hour on every station that we own, I said, okay, well, I want to have just all females on the radio. It's going to be all programmed with all females. And so they're like, you want to you just negotiated for this, and you don't want to put you on it or promote you. You want to do, and I said, yeah, and I don't want to host it. I want Amy, my co-host, to host it. And so
Powerful.
for me, that was going, let's recognize it. Let's highlight females in the past that have been great. Let's play new females. But it was just to also put the pressure on people a little bit too. So, I just want to be known as someone who is looking to help others because I was being helped so much, even with animals. Like, I love my dog and I try to help with animals as much as possible.
You've got a cute dog, by the way.
So my dog's a real knucklehead right now. He's a puppy, but we're getting through it together. So I am proud of my platform and I'm proud of what me and my listeners have done together.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, giving back is really important to you. And you, I don't know if this was a miracle or not, had an idea to create a band, the Raging Idiots. And it's pretty cool.
Well,
and you create some amazing, cool content. I would highly encourage you to listen to his latest song, Target. What's the name of that?
Well, it's called the Target song.
Yeah, the Target song. It's a classic.
Well,
it is so good. But you've done a lot for charity with that band.
Well, that started as just a charity project. Eddie, my partner, and I, in my band, were just going out playing small restaurants for like 20 people. And we would just take all the money and give it to animal shelters or hospitals. And it started growing and growing. And now we've literally done millions of dollars through our little dopey band. And now it's not so dopey, which is crazy, but it grew out of a place of what else can we create to be able to give back? So I'm very proud of that too. That's one of the things that I look at and go, wow, I can't believe, because we're not that good. I'm like, wow, we're not that good. And we're playing major festivals and selling out theaters all over. So and for a good reason.
Well,
so.
I love what you said. You said, I'm a decent writer, a barely decent guitar player, and a terrible singer.
Yeah, that's about it. And I'm the lead singer, which, but we are funny. We're very funny. And I'm proud that we can, do shows and bring so much laughter to folks.
Well, you also created a movement dedicated to people who may be going through a rough time, but they choose to find joy. And I feel like through the challenges in your life, you've been able to have the determination to rise above the circumstances and find joy. Tell me about Pimp and Joy.
Well, so what happened was my co-host Amy's, his mom was fighting cancer at the time. And Amy's my best friend, not just my co-host, but she's my best friend before co-host. And her mom was fighting cancer, and they were trying to find her a Twitter handle. Her name was Judy, and they had tried Judy chooses joy, Judy. And she finally went with Judy be Pimp and Joy. And what happened was before she passed away, she told Amy that she just wanted to have some sort of impression. And that's where Pimp and Joy came from. And I remember Amy and I having the conversation too, like, do we want to put the word pimpin' in there? And I was like, anything to get people to pay attention to something bigger than, let's do it. And we've been able to do a lot for folks with that.
It's so cool what you've done.
Thank you.
I would encourage people to go to that website.
Well, you can just, and it's not even about...
It's raising money for different charities every month, right?
And it's more so like a feeling for yourself. You don't have to spend money on anything. Yeah. Our whole thing was, if we raise money with this, great. But if we can also promote a message of finding joy within yourself, which actually takes it and makes you find joy to others, it's as much about that as it is anything else. Well,
I mentioned before that you were a New York Times 2 times bestselling author, and you have a book called Fall Until You Don't, Fight, Grind, Repeat. You're turning 40 on April 2nd. What has been the biggest miss in your life and the miss you are the most grateful for?
Well, I wrote that book. I'd written a first book about my life, which was nutty that it was successful at all. And I didn't want to write a second book. I was just going to be a one-hit wonder and be fine with that. I was just pumped to have one book that worked. And I did what's called a TED Talk, where I went up and talked. And I did a TED Talk called Winning by Losing, why everything that you fail at, actually, you may not get it, but you learn from it. And eventually you learn so much that you do get it. And it's just a process. And so that's where Fail Until You Don't came from. I didn't want to write a second book. And I thought, well, I can actually write this. And I think this is a good message. It's very practical. Like, all of us can just try. Mm-hmm. There's no skill in trying, but skills can be developed through trying. And so I wrote the book, and it was a lot of ways that I had messed up. It was a lot of my theory on you don't have to be super talented to be successful. But a lot of my favorite artists and prominent figures decided to write their biggest failure for the book too. Chris Stapleton, the governor of Arkansas, a lot of Walker Hayes, the artist. So they wrote their biggest failures. And so that whole book is, I just didn't want it to be a real glossy, everything works out the way it doesn't. Right. As far as me, I've had so many failed relationships. I haven't, been good at being vulnerable and open to folks on a one-on-one level. And I think for me, that was my constant struggle. But now, like you said, therapy later, I'm working on it.
I love it. Okay, so you won the 27th season on Dancing with the Stars with Shauna. And I want to know what the biggest life lesson you learned from being on that show.
Well, I'm proud of that. And not because it was a TV show or because it was even dancing, but because I went in and nobody knew who I was. Just probably thought I was a star just to get invited to the show, which was fun. Right. But then it was, they released the odds of who they thought would win. And I was at the very bottom. I was the last person that had the worst odds. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I'd never danced before. But it was learning every single week. And it was always taking steps. And sometimes I take a step forward, sometimes I take a step back, but I was always learning. And I was never the best. But you don't have to be the best in order to be successful. And I stuck at it at 12 hours a day, was grinding it out. Nobody believed in us, and I was okay with that. But it was just proving to others that, if you want something, it's going to be uncomfortable for a while, and that's okay. And you can get through it. And so when they announced that I won that show, I was shocked, but I was very proud, and I felt like I deserved it because no one worked harder than we did. Mm-hmm. And although we went into that thing not having a clue what we were doing, especially me, we walked out of that going, wow, we actually learned how the process went. And if I were to do it again, one, I would never do it again. I don't even dance anymore alone. But I was proud of that just because I went into it with no idea what I was doing. And not that I knew how to dance any better, but I knew how to get better and how to improve at something.
High five.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Amazing
you.
work. Well, you've done some pretty famous stunts in your life. One that I think is really cool is in 45 minutes, you packed over 500,000 meals to help Team Haiti Foundation. What is a stunt that sticks out to you the most?
Well, that was a good one where I didn't get in trouble. Yeah. I've done a few of them where I've gotten into some real trouble. We had a rival radio station back in the day who had put stickers all over our station van. And so I was like, okay, well, if they want to play, we're going to go break into the radio station. And so we actually tricked our way in. I sent my side guy, and he hid in the bathroom until they left, and we took over their airwaves. And it's not a smart move. But
didn't you get hired by them?
I got hired by another station because they heard it.
Yeah.
So, I did that. I got fined $1 million by the FCC a few years ago because I pushed a button that I probably shouldn't have pushed. It's just a lot of things. But again, a lot of mess ups, but I've learned from them, and hopefully it's made me better professionally and better personally as well.
Well, we are going to move to our quickfire section before we end, and we're going to incorporate some of the kids into these questions, but I'm going to ask a couple questions first. Most spontaneous thing you've ever done in your life?
Probably go on Dancing with the Stars. I didn't plan to do that.
So was it a quick decision? You're like,
they were like, hey, do you want to do Dancing with the Stars? We need somebody. And I guess all the other 10 options had fallen through. And I was like, yeah, sure. So away I went.
Okay. If you had time for a new hobby, what would it be?
I don't think I have. I was talking yesterday. I don't have a hobby really now. Yeah. But what I do is I take hobbies and I go, oh, wow, this is fun. How can I turn this into a job? And it's a bad cycle to be in. I like to read. So I would like to read more probably.
Well, what dream are you most looking forward to fulfilling next?
Yeah, I feel pretty good where I am. Like I'm ready to have like my own show, my own TV show. And we're really close to that. So
yeah, it's in the works, right?
We're really close to that.
Yeah, and you're going on TV.
Yeah, I'm doing American Idol. I'm doing opera, but I want my own show, and we're really so close that I can almost touch it.
What's been the most intimidating interview you've ever done?
Well, the first time I met Garth Brooks was big because he was just my favorite my whole life. So now it's weird because he's a friend of mine,
right? And
it's weird how Nashville works, and you just become friends with people because it's a really kind town. Right. But maybe Garth, the first time he walked in, or Dolly, it's the people that you looked up to as a kid that are the biggest deal now. Right. Like Luke Bryan's the biggest star in country music, but him and I are such good friends that it's like, I just left him. And it's like, all right, I got to go. So the people, it's always people when you were kids that are still fascinating to you.
Are you going to be the governor of Arkansas in the next 10 years?
In the next 10 years, I would hope so, yes. Okay. When will that be? I'm not exactly sure. Anywhere from 2 to 10, I don't know, but yeah, I hope so.
All right, so we're going to have the kids ask the questions. Do you have a question in front of you?
What's your best advice you ever received?
My grandma would always tell me, because I would want to do things and jump way ahead before doing the things. So she would always go, don't put your t-shirt on after you put your deodorant on, which just meant do things in the right order or you're going to look like a fool. So what you do, just for you, when you don't put on deodorant yet, do you?
No.
You will soon. You will very soon. So what you want to do is put your shirt on and then put deodorant on so you don't get it all over your shirt. That make sense? not me. I put it on, put a shirt on, have stains all over me. So she was, mostly it was just like, hey, do things in the right order or you'll look like a fool. I would say that was pretty good.
What's your hidden talent?
I can juggle really well. I used to work on a golf course, so in order to kill time, I would juggle golf balls all the time. So I'm a good juggler. One more.
If you could interview anyone on your podcast, who would it be?
Probably David Letterman. You know who that is?
No.
He was a YouTuber back in the day. He was on the big YouTube, though. But yeah, he was a YouTuber back in. Those are good questions. Appreciate that.
Okay, Riley's got some.
Riley, how you doing?
Good.
You good?
Yeah.
How old are you?
12.
Well, me too. Holy moly.
If you could do a duet with anyone, who would it be?
Well, I've been lucky enough to do a duet with Carrie Underwood once, and that one was pretty crazy. So I did a duet with Garth once, with Garth Brooks, which is pretty crazy. Maybe like the Wiggles, because no one would expect it. Maybe like a hot potato, maybe something like that. That'd be kind of fun.
What was the best moment of your life?
You really are you doing this for a living? That's a good question. Did you come up with that? No. That's a good one.
You too.
The best moment of my life. I think that, whenever the radio show and the listeners are able to do something like we built a house for a member of our military who was serving overseas and had been in a wheelchair because a bomb went off. We were able to just get together on the show that morning and go, we want to build this guy a house. Things like that are very fulfilling to me, more so than any award that I win. I have a couple scholarships that I give out of my high school to kids. And when I could finally afford that, that was a big one. But I think maybe the best moment is when I was able to buy my mom some land and a trailer. And because, she didn't have a good place to live. So when I was able to do that, I think that to me was like, wow, you're actually able to provide something. So I think those three, and then also probably Dancing with the Stars trophy. Yeah.
Who is the coolest person you interviewed?
John Mayer was super cool. Big fan of John Mayer. Garth Brooks, Dolly, and Reba are both really amazing. And then, am I interviewing you or are you interviewing me right now? I'm going to put you on the list at number 5. You have another one? Give me one more.
Who is your biggest hero?
That's a tough one. Because there are so many things that I look at and go, I really wish that I could do something like that. And it's mostly people that find a way to make sure their life is meaningful past when they're around. And that's kind of was the goal with the scholarships that I do now was I didn't want it to be about me. I didn't name it after me. It's actually called the Don't Be Skipping Class Scholarship. It's like, if you want to make it, you have to actually show up to class. So I think, I see a lot of, like Dolly does so much where she knows where she came from and continues to give back. She doesn't need to give back anymore. She wants to give back. And I see people doing that generationally, and that inspires me. So probably in that world, kind of Dolly, obviously people like David Letterman in the radio TV world. And then, even Ryan Seacrest, who's really the greatest I've ever seen host anything. I call him the GOAT all the time of hosting. So people like that inspire me to be better in all ways. So thank you for those questions. Those are really good.
So we have one more question before we end the podcast. But before we close, I want to thank Riley and Micah and their families so much for being here. Dude. You guys are like the true stars, and what you go through is beyond imaginable, but we're just so grateful that you could be in the room today and we get to spend time with you. And thank you, Mr. Bobby Bones, for sharing your wisdom and life experiences with us and the miracles in your life. And the last question that I asked all my guests is, if there were 3 miracles that you could create in the world today, what would that look like for you?
3 miracles. I'll do small miracles. It's important to me that kids not be ostracized based on their resources because they don't have control of that. And so when I was a kid, I wasn't able to play basketball because I couldn't afford the basketball shoes. And I didn't share that because I was so embarrassed of it. And so, with kids, because even when I do decide to leave the broadcast world and go into the world of serving politically or civil servant, it's somewhat trying to affect the culture that is young and below us that doesn't affect now. And it's a real problem now because people want to see their life change right now. But as a kid, I couldn't afford shoes. And I would like to make sure that a lot of these kids are at least on an even base to compete if they want it. So if they want to get an education, they can. I think a small miracle that I would provide would be just the ability to learn if kids want to learn. It would be the ability to understand that their dreams are achievable if they want to achieve them. And then probably ice cream for everybody all the time. That's my third one. Nonstop ice cream.
What flavor?
So, well, I'm not going to be, everybody has their own flavors. But probably chocolate is my favorite. But what's your favorite? Chocolate. You like chocolate? What's your favorite, Mike?
Oreo.
Oh, you got to be complicated, don't you? You think I'm going to make Oreo ice cream for the whole world? You know how much that's going to cost?
How much?
Well, I don't know. That's the problem. But yeah, probably something like that.
I like that. Well, I also don't want to forget to give a big shout out to Seacrest Studios. They're amazing to work with. Ryan Seacrest, we love what you've created for 10 studios in our children's hospitals. Like, you guys are creating miracles in so many kids' lives. So thank you, Mamie and Casey, and thank you, Meg, with Green Room PR. We're so grateful for your support. And everyone, I hope you have a beautiful, miraculous day, and go out and create a miracle for someone around you today.
Tune in to the Golf Channel on March 22nd at 5 p.m. Eastern to watch the Ace Shootout and cheer on your favorite sports celebrities as they compete in a fun golf skills competition to raise money for their local Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Thanks, Ace Hardware, for raising over $2.6 million to help save kids' lives.